these are sustainable items, so kids can enjoy them year after year. The standing desks, we got 3 fidget desks for Ms. Cavaritan, which she absolutely loves. We also funded the American Young Voices competition for Ms. Wool, and which is extremely exciting. So we love supporting the arts as well. That's why we support STEAM. And a hands-on STEAM table for Ms. Corey and Ms. Evans. And last year we had purchased one for Ms. McFarland. And one of the nice things I want to brag about the teachers is that we've asked them to go back and do a little research. They've come with their grant and we'll say, okay, that's great, but go back and find 3 quotes. And by doing that process, we saved over $2,500 in the past year, which is really helpful. And I know that they work very hard, but it's time consuming for them, but they're really helping us out and saving us money so we can grant even more things to you guys. So we are really excited. And we're going to have some fabulous events. We're working on a Halloween party. We are working on a, what we call it, a Ship-Ahoy membership raffle again, which is transferable. We are also going back to the community and doing a restaurant raffle basket, and we are purchasing the gift cards for $2,500 worth of both communities in Highlands and Atlantic Highlands, and we're going to raffle that off just like the Ship-Ahoy raffle. So I'm going to be sending emails to the teachers and to the board members to help contribute for a chance. And we're also doing the cardboard race again because that was a huge success, and we want to build on it and make it even bigger. So if you would like to, come to my Henry Hudson Tri-District Education Foundation website. Come in about 3 weeks because we're rebuilding it, so revamping it. And once we finish that, we are doing it's pretty awesome, right? It's slick. And we will be then being able to produce a newsletter and develop sponsorships and donors for our foundation and let them know the good work that our teachers are doing. Thank you very much. And the good work we're doing to help support you accomplish what you want to do. So any questions?
I would just like again to express what a great job you have done as president. We started in 2014 with a vision and what a difference it has made. And over $78,000. Kudos to our teachers.
The RFPs, as I mentioned, we're accepting them at any time, but the decision will be made July 15th because we are in conjunction with Highlands, and we wait for them to make some decisions on their teachers, what courses they're going to be teaching. But if you have a great idea, please feel free to send it in. Shoot big, you never know. And we're still working pretty hard on fundraising so that we can continue supporting you and everybody else. So
thank you.
Faculty meeting explaining your RFP process, so our staff all is very much aware of it as well.
Yes.
And it's some really great and neat ideas.
Yeah, it's really fun, and there's amazing stuff out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Why, have you been to one of my meetings?
No. I've not been, but I just thought that you guys might be interested in making it.
Yeah, don't come if you want best practices. We have wanted ours.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Could I have a motion to approve the following resolution to adopt the 2018-19 Atlantic Highlands School Year Budget and Tax Levy? Motion? Second? Discussion? Roll call?
Barnes?
Yes.
Lombardi? Mahoney?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 20, 2018 regular board meeting? Motion? Second? Any discussion? Roll call.
Barnes? Yes. Dancer?
Yes.
Gursky? Yes. Blackley? Yes. Beckman? Yes. Lombardi? Mahoney? Yes. Harvey? Sanchez?
Yes.
And can I have a motion to receive the correspondence as listed on the agenda? Motion?
I'll second.
Second, Santry. Roll call. Any discussion?
discussion? Roll call?
Barnes? Yes. Spencer?
Yes.
Dorsey? Yes. Buckley?
Yes.
Petrem?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Stanton?
Yes.
And may I have a motion to approve the building use request as listed on the agenda? Motion? Second?
Mark.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Sorry, can I ask you, is the new ending, this dance is the later than the original?
Yes, so
school
what
is that
the,
updated somewhere?
the updated school closings is later in the agenda.
Okay.
And what the sixth grade parents chose to do this year is our promotion is actually going to be that Friday, the 22nd.
Okay,
And then they're going to leave that as an evening for the children
Got it.
to enjoy with their families. And then they're going to bring the children back for a dance that following Monday evening.
okay.
So they're going to do that on 2 separate evenings,
Okay.
rather than one back-to-back as we've done previously.
Roll call?
Barnes?
Yes.
Spencer?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Petrem?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Stanton?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into our committee reports. We had a committee on curriculum and instruction and education on April 11th. Elizabeth, want to go next week?
Sure. So Mr. Layton talked about the math curriculum and how that's moving along on schedule. He talked about the math and ELA implementation update. Talked about computers and what was compatible and what needed to be fixed. That was part of the technology update as well. Sustainable Jersey committee update. I don't remember if I did notes on that, but that was covered.
Okay, I'll talk about that.
Okay, and then the park testing, that's moving forward, letter was sent home. The website update, one is waiting.
We've got a contract already to bring forward.
Right. We talked about the school year, extended school year program, and the Atlantic Highlands Historical Society has reached out to the school to try to get students to come for some kind of field trip and work with teachers on that. And we talked a little bit about a sample resolution from the New Jersey School Board Association. That was about it.
And our summer reading. Mr. Lane's going to get the summer reading.
Oh, right. Yep. Right.
Great, thank you. On April 10th, we had a Human Resources and PR meeting. Suzanne?
Yeah. We discussed the website. David Downs was about to meet in Hazlitt, so I guess an agreement has been drawn up, and we'll be presented to the Tri-District. We talked about the ongoing logos, the banners that are now going to go outside of the school. Julie, do you have anything to?
Last round is going to come this week, and then
Okay.
we'll be good to go.
Yeah, it's been it's like a 2-year effort in terms of trying to figure out how to make these kind of evergreen, but still tell the story of our school. And Julie's done a great, great job with Christina Brooks, and I'm very excited about what they look like. They're awesome.
The logo is unbelievable.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about the school calendar, 2/18, 2/19 school calendar, and also just for parents to add a few dates to the calendar initially at the top of the year that haven't been in the past to make it more user friendly. We had a lot of personnel issues to talk about, and the healthcare update, and that was basically it.
Thank you. And same night, Committee on Finance and Buildings and Grounds, comment?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about school safety and security and some of the updates to some of the potential upgrades to some of the entrances and exits. Specifically, Michelle had an architect to come and looked at the front entrance. Specifically, we're looking at figuring out what our options are for replacing some of the doors. So we're still working on getting some quotes on that and figuring out what makes sense in that arena. We had some discussion. There was someone reached out to the school interested in donating some seating for the playground area. So
desk, let's move forward, see exactly what that would entail. We talked a lot about the budget, which Ms. Shaw gave a presentation tonight. We talked about, and the other item in her budget that we spent some time talking about is the fact that the tuition student that has been coming here is not funds that can be counted on for the following year, so adjusted the budget that way. In addition, folks may have heard, one of our occupational and physical therapy providers was recently sanctioned. Is that the right? Sanctioned by the state of New Jersey for some embezzlement issues, I believe. Is that the misuse of funds? Misuse of funds. So we are starting the process of finding a new vendor for occupational and physical therapy, and working in the short term to make sure, clearly the people that are on the ground here have no issues with, the therapists that we see, we have a strong relationship with, so working on both finding a new vendor and keeping the current relationships and trying to keep student services as seamless as possible. The energy audit is complete, so now we get to move forward with that, which is very exciting because that opens up. That's the first step in a lot of, in addition to just in and of itself saving us money around making the building more efficient, but then the first step in numerous funding opportunities. So starting out there. Also talked about the cafeteria contract is up for bid, so we are just starting the bidding process on that for the upcoming school year. And then we talked, gave a little bit of update in terms of negotiations and kind of both healthcare costs as it relates to the entire building. So I think we can fill that a little bit more in an executive session. And then also talked a little bit about the building, but I think you'll get that update in your session. Okay, thank you. We did not have a tri-district committee on the schedule. Sustainable New Jersey, it's been an exciting week, I think, for everyone involved with the school. We kicked off an assembly on Monday to skip the straw, the final straw, and it was a lot of fun. We were here. We are part of the resolution that's been adopted by the borough in breaking the straw. So it was fun. What was his name, Molly?
Bill Kerwood,
yeah.
Who had presented for us back in December. And when he was offered to us again, I was a little concerned because we had just seen him in December, and he created an absolutely brand new assembly, all centered on the skip the straw concept. And he really nicely tied it into what he had taught the kids back in December, and kind of refreshed their memories on the recycling and the reduce and reuse and all of those concepts. So it was really, the kids were walking in going, Bill! Like, long lost friend. So it went very nicely.
It was great, and was proud to, I was out in town this evening for dinner, and the location had the bookmark on the table, and we said no to the straw so nicely. So it's been a great week. So our green team members have been asked if they're out and about in the town to go into restaurants to let people know about what our plan is, and so hopefully less straws. Apparently they picked up 150 straws on the beach this past weekend, so something we can all do without. So it was great, and thank you to Mr. Crowley, who was on the council, for really rolling this out and going with it. And we are eliminating the straws in our cafeteria here, so there's no more straws downstairs. And I think the cafeteria staff is happy about that.
Oh, they were excited. Couldn't wait to pull them. It was right on top of it.
Yes.
Really excited.
We were very proud too with Mr. Wolf and his visionary with the theme, and also again Mr. Crowley. Suzanne, we want to say a special thank you for all his support.
Absolutely, we loved it. Negotiations, we give an update in executive session. The Tri-District Education Foundation, Corinna was here this evening. We had a meeting last night. There's a lot of exciting things going on planned for the next into the summer, into next year, for raising money for the foundation and ultimately back to the schools. So I'll keep you guys posted on everything. I think the next thing coming up is probably the Ship-Ahoy raffle and the restaurant raffle that she mentioned, but I'll keep you posted on those details. And Erin, any update with Monmouth County or New Jersey?
Just a couple of dates, if anybody's interested, I can give you more information. May 14th, there's a special education symposium. There's a session called Are You Future Ready, which talks about incorporating digital learning into the classrooms. If you're interested, let me know. I can get you information. I think it's May 10th. The school security conference, which I mentioned.
Elizabeth is attending that.
Okay, good. So that one's covered. And then if anyone's interested, Monmouth County is looking for board delegates on the county level. So if anybody's interested for board delegate, I have information on that too.
And I'm going to the NASA trip on Friday.
Right, that's exciting. And then the spring delegate assembly is on May 20th. That's the one out near Princeton. It's a half day. Someone does need to attend, so if anybody would like to attend, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll have to pick a name. But that's May 20th. It's a Saturday morning. It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours that you're there for the whole thing. It's a lot of fun. And 158 First Avenue, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Kovac to give an update, give some background and where we're at here.
Good evening. I was asked to prepare a brief sort of presentation to sort of update the board. I guess there's a lot of things going on in the community with regard to some approvals that happened with the site over at 158 160 First Avenue. By way of background, back in 2005, the property owner was mandated to undertake a cleanup at the site. This was through the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And at that time, in order to ensure the safety of our students, the district engaged the Environmental Services Company, it was Brinkerhoff Environmental Services, to conduct some testing to make sure that there weren't any issues that we needed to be concerned with, or if there were, to address. Ultimately, we found out that while there was soils contamination off-site, not on the district's property, and that was being remediated by the property owner, the contamination found its way into groundwater. And because of the way in which our topography is, because of the way in which the groundwater flows, some of that basically migrated onto the Board of Education's property. I believe the principal chemical that they were looking at was TCE, which is trichloroethene. Two things about that. As it progressed across the street underground, it began to dissipate. So in order to address that, we had what are known as monitoring wells. Basically, a well that's going down to groundwater to check and see whether or not there's contamination, and if there's contamination, whether or not it's at a level that would be of concern. Of the wells that we had, we only found one that was ever had any elevated readings. In addition to that, we did some air testing in the building. We found that there were some concerns with regard to the air quality. And the way in which that was proposed for remediation, and again, when I say remediation, it wasn't the district doing this. Once this information was brought to our attention, we had our environmental people bring it to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's attention, and then the property owner was obliged to take steps to basically remediate that, even though on our property. We entered into agreements to allow the individual to come onto our property, place those monitoring wells, in addition to do some testing by way of air quality. We found that there were some concerns with regard to air quality, and basically had, I'm not going to give you the overall scientific, but basically sort of a reverse pressurized system. Think of a vacuum, if you will. Basically draw off those vapors and then dissipate them in accordance with what the New Jersey Environmental Protection Agency required us to do. Basically taking that and allowing that to mix with greater parts per million and those kinds of things. Continued to do air quality testing, and found that there were no longer any concerns in the areas that we tested. There is, to my understanding, in the course of this, basically with regard to the soil contamination across the way, it was shared with us that there was a no further action letter. That's basically the letter that's given by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, which basically says, okay, it is remediated to the level that is acceptable to them. In terms of the monitoring wells, I believe that is also complete, but I think we're looking for paperwork at this point in time to sign off onto that and then to close out that activity. so that as far as the Board of Education is concerned, we entered into a settlement agreement overseen by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, took care of the issues that we had with regard to our site. And here you are now. It's my understanding that the properties have been demolished over across the way. There's some pending approvals that have been granted by the planning board. But in terms of the issues of contamination, they've been addressed.
Thank you. Thank you. And pursuant to that, board members are aware, I've been attending the both planning board and the mayor and council meetings for updates and listening to what's been going on there. We have proactively, out of a concern is the parking signs along the East Washington side of the building. The 10-minute parking signs have been removed to open up parking for teachers to help with any potential issues there. But again, this isn't, the association has not formally requested the board and or any parent group to back them on any sort of parking issue. So this is something that we've done proactively just to help that out in the process. And any public discussion comments at this time?
Yes. My name's Tom Broadbent. I live at East Mount, 125 East Mount. My daughter goes to school here. I know some of you, and I've seen some of your kids grow up from being very, very little. And I was stunned when my wife contacted me 2 Thursdays ago and said, Tom, there's something going on next to the school and you need to be there. And that was, in fact, the first time I heard about 158, 160, because I didn't even know the address of the school. Nobody notified me. And I'm very concerned about the safety of the students, the safety of the teachers, and the success of the students. And historically, the town has been neglectful of environmental and toxic issues, has not been fully transparent, and this is a concern. When I went there and found out about this development, I did not know about the seepage into the school. I did not know about the plume. I found that out at 4 o'clock in the morning after the meeting, which caused me to go ahead and get very engaged and to begin to get very informed. And what I feel is if the Board of Education and the school knew of this situation, knew of the intensity of the situation when it first happened in 2002, the loss to custody and control of this environmental mitigation process during that period of time, and the extended period of time it took for the property owner to work with the parents who filled this auditorium, and there's historic record of that, I'm not as trusting moving forward with the actions of this developer and property owner. And what it requires us to do, and you as educators, is to become informed, fully informed about the risk factors. So I'm very appreciative that I was invited here tonight. I'm very appreciative of the response. I'm very appreciative of the summary. But the realities of the remediation are much different than that concise summary. And there's gaps. And I believe, number one, the parents and the community should have been more effectively notified. I'm notified when a kid is sick or has lice. This is probably the biggest safety issue facing the students in the school, the teachers in the school, and the facility here. You know, initially it was all about the building and the safety issues associated with carving into the land and releasing the gases, the vapors. And then it was about the safety issues and the disturbance that would take place when they're building that property. I had financial concerns about the developer and what their true intentions were, and I had other issues with respect to the transparency that went into the notification process. There are a lot of issues. So we're talking about that, and then what became the major priority was the safety of the kids and the integrity of the sub-slab pressurization system to remove the vapors. And how were we testing that? What was the methodology? What was the frequency in testing that? and were our kids safe? I don't discount the severe nature that this has on pregnant women, okay? Little kids in preschool, little kids in kindergarten. So when I feel as though it has not been revealed, I feel as though I have to get my ire up and get educated and address it with you directly. So what I've heard is it's now on the table, you're looking at it, but now we need specificity on those studies and the monitoring that's been taking place. Since that sub-slab was put in, we've had a hurricane and a flood. I'm hearing issues about sustainability and reducing the cost of maintenance and facility and electricity, which begs the question, are these systems working 24 hours a day? Are they being tested? Who is providing oversight to make sure it works? The five-year warranty on these fans, are these fans fully operational? So we need to test it. So my major concern right now in the brief conversation is, what are those answers and how are we monitoring it? The other items associated with the development and the preparation of the Board of Education and the school to protect the teachers and the students, that's secondary right now. So what's paramount is the immediate concerns. Are we in compliance? And do we have the resources to know? So that's my question, and I'd like to know, what the response can be or the time frame to really address that.
The board has no compliance obligation. The obligation is on the property owner after entering into an agreement with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection oversees the cleanup from contaminated soils to vapors to the readings that are done in regard to the monitoring wells.
My question was specifically inside the school with the sub-slab. How do we know it's working now? What evidence do we have that it's being properly managed, maintained? That's my question. With respect to New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, I spent 4 hours on the phone with them last week. Everybody should know that what the requirement is the property owner needs to hire an independent licensed remediation specialist. That's what they do. And New Jersey deferred the responsibility to the property owner because they were trying to cut the cost of budget and environmental mitigation. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is not monitoring what's going on in that site. They've set a timeline for this to be fully monitored or remediated by 24. They do go ahead and test the wells. They have done soil samples, and actually the soil samples are below grade. 7 of those 25 soil samples are not up to par. But my question is about the school, and then we'll have a conversation about, should we be so trusting about the development? Should we be so trusting that they're going to go ahead and monitor? Should we be so trusting about the traffic flow? And is it prudent to have a driveway right where the kids get off? I mean, those issues are secondary, but right now it's about what is the safety of the kids right now. And if we don't have the answers, we need to get the answers.
As far as the Board of Education is aware, there is no danger to any of its students at this point in time. I can't tell you that I've called the NJDEP because at this point in time, despite the fact of the way the NJDEP translates this into a remediation activity, the Board of Education doesn't tell the NJDEP what to do. As far as the slab and vacuum system, as far as the information we have, it is doing its job. And there are no readings that we've been made aware of which indicate that there are any levels that create a danger to anyone on the property. Now, obviously, the NJDEP sets those standards. The Board of Education doesn't. But in terms of the operation of the system, that remedial plan is something that is signed off on by the responsible party, and the NJDEP has the enforcement authority over that. Now, if you're asking me, have I read a report yesterday? No.
No, sir, I'm not asking you to
Okay.
read the report. And I'm not even, I don't even expect you to have the answer about the monitoring downstairs at all, okay? I don't think that's your position at this conversation. It is a responsibility of the facility here to have the available resources to go ahead and test that and have a plan. It's part of the Board of Education air quality monitoring plan. It's part of the toxic and hazardous handling plan. It's part of the ongoing budget and maintenance, which is part of the Board of Education guidelines and part of the action plan of the school. So I think that people were caught off guard here in the community, okay? I think the teachers were caught off guard, the parents were caught off guard. And I actually think that you guys maybe haven't gotten all the information and you're caught off guard, and that's okay, all right? My criticism doesn't come without solutions and assistance to go ahead and get the answers, okay? And that's what I'm looking for, and that's what we're trying to discuss right now. If we don't have the answers, then we announce that we don't have the answers, but we're going to get them, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to do a maintenance test on it, and we're going to be prudent. That's my suggestion, and I'll help you.
Any other public comment?
Hi, Dr. Snedeker, 57 Avenue C. I've also got a daughter here, and before I get into the fun, I want to thank everybody up here because I've had 3 kids go through this school, and the education that they've gotten here has been outstanding, thanks to a whole bunch of you standing here. So, and a whole bunch of other folks here as well. So this isn't about the education, and I think Tom has already spoke with respect to the safety concern. I'm going to speak for the second issue, which is the parking and the traffic issue. And I was shocked, and I was actually at the board meeting. I can't remember if it was March 8th or March 12th where they passed this over here. For starters, I was shocked that there weren't enough of you guys there when they passed it. I think there should have been more representation from our school and more concern. I think it's ridiculous that we're losing 28 spots when we already don't have enough spots for teachers. And I've heard that you guys are speaking, with this developer. But what I'd like to see is not just we're speaking and he's friendly. I'd like to hear commitment. I'd like to hear what he's going to do. Relieving 5 spots next to Carton isn't going to solve the problem when we're putting 28 spots from this new developer on the street. I don't know if you guys are aware, but the so-called parking expert that counted the spots, they did it on a half day at the school. A half day is when they counted the parking spots. It's ridiculous. They did it on a Saturday. It's ridiculous. And the planning board pushed this through. It's unacceptable. And so I hear that you guys are having a conversation with the developer. I don't want to hear you're having a conversation. I want to hear what the actions are. What are the results? What is this school going to do? Because when these teachers show up in the morning, I don't want them walking 6 blocks to get to school in the snow. These people are the ones that take care of my children, and I want them to start their day happy and not frustrated. I'm also very concerned about the fact that we're going to put a driveway exactly right where these kids come out. That's where they want to put the driveway. And you guys may not be aware, but this developer has put this property in a separate entity so he can say he owns no other property. Well, guess what? He owns the property right next door. Right next door. He owns Mike's Deli. And he could punch a hole, and we could have the exit go out there, not right where the kids get dropped off. So, again, I would like you guys as the leadership here to work on that. If you've got a direct communication with the developer, let's get that done. The third thing is box trucks. The town waived a loading zone, which is a requirement. It's a legal requirement in this town that if you're building a retail facility, you need a loading zone, and they waived it. So now we're going to have tractor-trailer trucks right on the corner of Lincoln Avenue, where kids cross the street, where parents cross the street, where teachers cross the street. And I know everybody says, oh, it'll be fine, we have a police officer there. Well, guess what? We don't always have a police officer there. And let me tell you something. My grandmother was killed in front of a school 35 years ago, right over in West Long Branch, right at the corner of a school, just like this one. So we need to take these things seriously. We can't just say, oh, it's going to be fine. So I'm asking you guys, you know, if you guys have a direct line to the developer, let's please take these issues seriously and let's work things out. I don't want to hear we're talking to him. I want to hear, here are the actions and here's what he's agreed to and here's what's in writing. So again, I'm sorry if I come across as the guy in the rap T-shirt, but I'm very passionate about this, and I think this is very important for our school. It's very important for our teachers, and it's very important for our kids. So hopefully you'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Dave 14 East Washington. I was just wondering, there was always so much concern with that lot over there that no one wanted to touch it, no one wanted to do anything. So just as a follow-up, I guess, to what the guys are saying, we'd always kind of thought eventually, ideally, it would be a parking lot for the teachers, which of course made eminent sense, okay? As I recall, there was concerns about even kind of just peeling back like a foot or so just to put a foundation for a parking lot, which made perfect sense. So I'm just wondering, what assurances, if any, has the developer, I guess, because he's the voice you guys have been dealing with, when you're going to dig 20, 30, 40 feet down? Right now, these things may be working okay. What's going to happen, though? What assurances have they given you that after they dig all this stuff up that's been laying there for decades, that everybody's been frightful of to even disturb, that things are going to be okay? What have you gotten from, I guess, somebody to say, don't worry about it, we got your back, it's cool, it's not going to go into the plume, the kids are going to be safe?
The NJDEP saying there's no further action required.
You've got that in writing that they're assuring that when they dig in that thing, everything's going to be okay. And you as the board are completely cool with that.
No. You set up a false premise with three various things. That everyone was concerned about that everyone was afraid about that. I don't accept any of those premises. My response back to you is, in terms of remediation, the Board of Education can't dictate off-site of its property as to how something's going to be remediated. We simply don't have that jurisdiction. We're a body stated by... I'm trying to answer your question, and I didn't interrupt you in the middle. And as a result of that, we have certain limited powers. We were given notice of a planning board hearing. I'm assuming everybody that was in 200 feet was given notice. If they weren't, then you have a great basis for a challenge to that action. Because I know, sir, you received some notice because I saw your name in the meeting minutes.
No, I didn't. I don't live near. I live on 21 Leonard. And
Well,
I didn't get notice there either.
Well, no, I don't know whether that you're within 200 feet of that. But in terms of who gets notice, there's a certain limited group. There's also published notices in newspapers. That's required. But going back to your issue, no, I don't have any assurance that any development at all. I just have the agency that is in charge of that, and the agency that does tell people what they do, and does say what level of what you can do on that property, has basically said that with regard to soil contaminations, no further action is required by them. Now, again, the Board of Education doesn't sit as a super board over top of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. I have to accept that at its face value, just like all the other residents do. In terms of whether or not there's an issue with the groundwater, as I said before, at this point in time, we have no information to believe there's any danger to the health and safety of any of our students or the Situate people that attend this school. As to the parking and those things, and as to how that's developed, again, I can't tell a property owner to do that. But in terms of responding to your question, no, I don't have a writing to that effect, but I do have a writing that basically we do have, and I think my business administrator has confirmed to me, we were given a copy of that no further action letter.
So with that, does that no further action letter talk to digging 20 and 30 feet down into the ground? Or is it as its current state right now?
I do not know. I have no idea. I do know that the planning board, at least as part of, and I haven't seen their final resolution, but obliged the property owner to comply with any requirements from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. That was one of Mr. Stive's remarks as I reviewed the meeting minutes. I did not attend the meeting.
So you as the attorney and the board are fine with that?
I can't say it's okay. I can't speak for the board.
I just want to know.
I can't speak for the board as to whether or not they are fine with that. I know that they have concerns. I'm sure they have concerns. But whether or not they're fine with it isn't necessarily my role in terms of providing legal counsel to them.
Okay. As far as the parking too, you mentioned about the signs coming down. We're being led to believe that that parking is 24/7. So to say that, hey, this could work out well for the teachers, I think I might be a little bit leery of that. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on his question. I want to inform the board that the only environmental document that exists in the borough is a summary by Laura Brinkhofer, and it is not a complete summary. I put in an Oprah with the planning board. They looked, they have nothing else. Only other additional documentation is with the owner of the property. To the point that we have no redress, I would suggest another approach. The school is an impacted party. You were notified by a certified letter on the 4th of December. That meeting was on the 14th, cutting it close. I looked at the study. I agree. If in fact we want to go after that approach and we want to challenge the process, there's tremendous amount of room to do that. But the issue is there is redress. What's more important is the school than the economic incentive of the developer. What's responsible is, and you teach this in class, when people don't have enough information, a student gets confused, you say reset. We need to reset, all right? Number one, every parent in the school district that has a student here should be notified of this development, should be notified of the history. That's prudent, pragmatic, and consistent with your fiduciary responsibility. Number two, there is an appeal process, and we can say, you know what, the Board of Education, because of the lack of knowledge and insight as to how the environmental impact on the school, let's put the brakes on. I'm not about killing the project. I'm about getting the information to understand what the vulnerabilities are. That's what drives me, and it should drive you also. We have 500 people that would be impacted by this project in the community. This is a treasure. This is the lifeblood of the community, not 18 apartments where a guy wants to go and dig into the groundwater. It is proven that the groundwater is not up to standard. It's in this report. We need to ask for more details, and moving forward and getting support of the school and the community should be based on those details so we can make an intelligent decision. So, the attorneys that you have on staff take the guidance of the board, and you're empowered. And you can go ahead and come up with a strategy, and we can work with you on that strategy that puts the best foot forward. And he will have more time to really look at the scope of everything, all right? And we can allocate a budget to make this happen. And that would be the prudent approach, because if not, there are major problems that can happen when you cut in and you expose the groundwater that will carry the TCE and will evaporate. We set the ground rules, not the property owner that slow walked this, not the lack of transparency in what the intentions are. We need to slow it down because this is the property that matters because of the students and the teachers. So my proposal is notify all the parents. We put together a legal team to look at the environmental factors. We still need to address what are the safety concerns downstairs. Right now, we don't have that answer. We need to address that. We need to do it in a very pragmatic way.
I just want to say I'm right behind him on this, and I want to support you guys. I want to be at a meeting where we're working together, not working against each other. And this is about the safety of our children, the safety of our teachers, and it's unacceptable that we've got a developer here that wants to roll this through. We've got councilmen that work for that developer. we've got issues here, and we're just watching it happen. I was there at that meeting when that was voted on. There was 8 or 9 people that all stood up and said this makes no sense at all, and they rolled it right through. We have an opportunity here to say, hold on a second, let's stop this, let's look at this, and let's do the right thing. And so I'm asking you guys, please, help us.
Yes. My name is Victoria Ford. I live at 121 Memorial Parkway. My issue is mostly the lack of anyone telling us what was going on. I feel like what you guys should do is let us know that this was happening, right? When you had that meeting with the developer, we should have been invited like you guys were, and so we knew what was happening, so we could ask questions. Otherwise, we're all attacking, but we're being dismissed. That's everything you're saying as the attorney is kind of just dismissing. I don't know what's happening. We'll have to wait for the DEP, whatever. But what's happening in terms of the conversation behind closed doors, we need to know. I feel like, are you supposed to speak for us, or do we all make a decision together? That's a question. Truthfully. Because I don't know.
Truthfully, you have a right to attend a public meeting. You have a right to attend a planning board meeting.
Correct.
You have a right to be heard.
And everybody has kind of done that.
Right. And in this instance, the Board of Education does not have jurisdiction over the planning board.
Totally understand.
Okay.
But that's
so
not my point.
in terms of what our obligations are or are not with regard to the planning process, there are statutory procedures as to what is obliged by the applicant, what they're obliged to do by way of giving notice to those individuals that are either within certain areas or by way of publication. Outside of that, if they've complied with that, it doesn't oblige the Board of Education to have additional responsibilities to take on additional notice to individuals.
Oh, okay. So okay.
In terms of self-interest, as far as I know, there's no reason why you can't go talk to the developer. In terms of developer.
Well, why would I know to talk to the developer? Why wouldn't the school, when they have a meeting, why wouldn't they let us know? Hey, we're having this meeting. Why can't we talk about it?
He's never come in front of us to our meeting.
Oh no?
Came to a committee. He came to a committee meeting. We've been talking about this property since our December board meeting.
Okay.
In public session. We have had a conversation about 158 First Avenue each month since December. This is the first time anybody is here.
Okay. So
listening to anything that we report out every month on our committee meetings.
Every month?
Every month we have a board meeting.
It hasn't been since January.
Every month we have committee meetings. Every month we have a board meeting.
Okay.
Since December board meeting, our regular board meeting, we have been talking about this property, 158 First Avenue. In our committee reports, like we did tonight, we report out on our committees.
It's kind of a big deal though, right? So wouldn't you think that it would just, as the transparency of the school, why wouldn't you just send an email and say, hey, look, I know this is a hot topic, right? Let's just so you know this is what's coming up. You posted the agenda yesterday. We have with childcare, I own a business, we work. I can't just, am I gonna bring my kids here and leave them here? No, it doesn't,
the agendas are posted once they're finalized, and we can't,
it's like you purposely just try to hide it.
No.
No?
Not at all.
That's how we put them up.
Well, that's how we feel. So maybe the communication's missing, and just that makes us feel like it really is like that.
Our board meetings are every month.
Right,
They're posted on the website, and they're on the website. Our meeting dates are on the second Tuesday of every month. This meeting had to move because of a budget hearing.
Okay, I'm at the board meeting, right? So I have no idea what any of you were talking about. Okay, yes, we had this meeting. We don't know what that means. So coming to the board meeting doesn't really matter unless it's something that we know what it's going to be about. As I'm just a regular person, right? So all those things you're talking about doesn't really affect me like that does. Right?
Everything that we talk about affects you. Your child's in school here.
Yeah.
Everything that we talk about affects every parent in the school.
As much as that?
Everything that we talk about affects every parent in the school. We have talked about
So you
this
guys
since
think that
December.
it's okay to just, let us come to you? Because I know, Mrs. Walling, I know people were coming to you and it was kind of like, no parent came to you?
Regarding the property?
158, yeah.
That's,
No?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
me.
Through emails and other things, yes. However, during a number of other events and things like that, some parents have, a number of those who we are seeing here this evening.
Right, so we heard it through the grapevine. So wouldn't it be better to be proactive and not hear it through the grapevine and have rumors and kind of let us know ahead of time? Right? Or no? Like, how do we have trust when that's how that went?
This is something that comes directly from the board. It comes from our board attorney. We follow that
I guess it was a board member really as well. Okay.
I'd like to follow up on her comment about public announcements. So, I had friends that were running for Board of Education, and they asked to put signs in my yard. And what I did when they did that is I began to take a look at the agendas back in September and October. And I did take a look at the minutes. And I wanted to get informed. Okay, so it's not like a popularity contest. And so I understand. I've had an incredible relationship with the school. Excellent. My daughter gets treated really, really well. So I can tell you that I was looking at agendas and minutes from the election onward. And I never saw anything about 158, 160. Like I said, I didn't even know the address of this school. This place doesn't have a mailbox or a sign. That's one. So then what I did is after I found out about this, and I get very focused, is I pulled all the minutes and all the agendas. And there was no reference to 158, 160 at all in the minutes whatsoever. So to address her concern is there's probably room for improvement. However, just like you respond to safety issues with gun violence and you begin to address those concerns, or a flu epidemic, take the whole situation within the context of the history of this school and flash back to 2009 when this place is full of parents saying, is my kid safe? So I think prudence would say that this matter should be revealed. Don't count on people looking at the Asbury Press with the planning board and the way projects get done. I know the way projects get done in this town, and you let them go. I knew what happened with Carton Brew House, okay, those safety issues. So that's the measure. So it's not about the property, it's about the safety of the kids. I don't want anybody to get defensive. I want them to get serious. And I think that council is doing a good job taking the heat, but it's now time for you individually to say, do I have enough information? Are my kids safe? What am I going to do? How can I work with these guys? You have incredibly intelligent, smart, motivated people in this town, and motivated teachers, and students that want to be safe, and students that want to change the environment, and want to do more than straws, and want to clean up the beach. This is an incredible opportunity for everybody to engage and do it the right way. You know why? Because I want a powerful daughter. I want powerful women. You got to, this is a chance to go ahead and do that. Let's get engaged instead of living this theoretical world. So let's improve the communication. We're in control of our destiny. You're in control of the destiny of the school relative to the project. This is my first time engaging with you guys. I do deals, and I believe in win-win, and I believe in preparation. It's time to drill down and get prepared. And do it so everybody wins, not so you're emasculated by somebody that wants to make a buck. And if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? So, please, the other board members need to jump in and speak up.
Any other public comment?
Hi, I hope you don't mind if I sit because I want to make sure I continue my video, and if I stand up it's going to get very wobbly. My name is Shelley Kennedy and I live at 104 East Highland. I don't have any children at this school anymore, but I did have a son who went to school here through special ed, and he was a student here when the sub-slab ventilation system went in. And I was one of the many people who stood in this room and asked questions. I remember one or two people who are in this room right now who were there at the same time. What I took away from that experience is that we do have the control within our power. You as the board, the school administration, has the power to work with us, the parents and residents of the town, and the council to make things happen. We don't have to accept what someone else tells us. We took it upon ourselves to make sure that remediation was done, that ventilation was done, that our students were safe. The number one concern was the safety of the students and the teachers at the school, and that's what it should be now. I know I don't have to tell you this. So just a little bit of history. The site at 158 First was a TCE remediation site, which still must be monitored. And the Brinkerhoff report that Mr. Broadbent mentioned, I have a copy of it, and it is a summary report. There is no data included. It does not talk about the depths of the samples that were taken, nor does it talk about the potential impacts. The last core samples were taken in 2014. That was 4 years ago. So we don't really know what the condition of the soil is today. Wouldn't it be a good idea to find out? Maybe Brinkerhoff, maybe another engineering firm with a different way of approaching this would be a good thing to do. Mr. Broadbent, you mentioned getting a budget. That's exactly what's needed here, because none of this is free. None of this is free, but I'll tell you, if you're looking at, oh, people are going to be upset that we're spending money, I think the parents of this town, and myself as a resident, I would be happy knowing that my property taxes were going to help make sure that the students at the school were safe, because they're the number one priority here, the students and the teachers of the school. I also wanted to let you know that someone I know at the Environmental Commission was kind enough to let me to tell me that the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, NJDEP, has to approve this project before they can build, and that is written into the ordinance. That was at the suggestion of the Environmental Commission, and the Planning Board did take that on, and they put it in there. However, no one is charged with monitoring the DEP or that approval. No one that I know of is charged with finding out that that's actually been done, so that if someone breaks ground over here, do we know that all the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted? Who would provide that kind of oversight? The Planning Board says it's not them. The Council says it's not them. We have people pointing at each other. No one's pointing at themselves. I think the buck should stop here, because this is the group that I think is the most impacted by problems that may come up at that building site. As a mother of a child who used to go to the school, I didn't want my son to be impacted. And I know no parent, no teacher, and no one in this room now wants any child to be impacted potentially by problems arising from development at that site. The plan itself has problems. I'm not sure how familiar all of you are with the plan, so bear with me while I describe a few of the problems. If this is not news to you, and you already have heard this, I apologize for repeating what you already know. The plan requires a variance because it has too few on-site parking spaces. Out of 56 required spaces, the developer only is allowing for on-site parking for 28 spaces, leaving the other 28 not included in the plan. And according to the study that was done by the developers, hired engineer, again, and I think you heard someone mention earlier, this was done on a weekend and on a half school day. So, of course, that report notes that there's plenty of parking on Lincoln and on Washington and on the streets around, and we know that's just not true. However, because that was the expert opinion and no other expert opinion was there, the Planning Board took the expert opinion and advice, and they passed it anyway. Even though there were people in the room, residents, who had done their homework, showed up, voiced concerns, and said that's not good. Some of the people in that room were teachers at this very school. Their opinions were not even considered. The plan also requires a variance for the lack of a loading zone. And Mr. Snedeker mentioned that his family member was killed in a situation in front of a school. Think, if you will, imagine with me a situation where one of the retail stores is refilling their merchandise. It probably will happen frequently throughout the week. The truck stops in front of the store and they begin offloading. I don't know if you've ever watched them offload at Carton, but the semi pulls up. They have cones that block off the sidewalk so no one can pass, and then they bring out the forklift, and the forklift moves the stuff off the truck, and like that. Well, over on East Highland Avenue, there's more room for this to happen. If a truck does that on First Avenue or on Lincoln, it will block the lane entirely. That's a huge problem in either place, but it's a particular problem on First Avenue. What happens every morning at between 7 and about 9 a.m.? Don't we have thousands of people going to a ferry? Yes, we do. What's going to happen when they come across a truck sitting in the road and they're trying to get to work on time? Are they going to wait? No. They're going to go around. And when they do, they're going to come back into their lane right in front of this school. Do you see the problem here? I'm extremely worried about this. Even with a policeman there, I don't know that it's going to be enough to keep our children and our parents safe. The ingress and egress point, as we've heard, is going to be located directly across from the current pickup and drop-off spot on this side of the building. Because there will be cars parked wall to wall on both sides of the street, pedestrians will be going between cars. Vehicles pulling out of the parking lot of 158 First will not be able to see them. This includes small pedestrians of about this height and pets on leashes. I don't think this is a very good scenario. I see a real problem with it, in fact. And if the developer has any other way of creating an access egress point on the other side of his building, then he should be encouraged to take that option. Again, the parking study that was done was paid for by the developer and included observations that were done on days that were not typical of the traffic at school. These are very serious concerns. Verbal assurances that the developer will work with us are not sufficient. This isn't something that should be left up to verbal understanding, verbal assurances, or assumptions that somebody else said it was okay. The AHES administration and the board should immediately file a legal objection to stop this project until the safety and well-being of our children and teachers can be assured, and these problems be addressed appropriate to their severity. The 45-day clock to file an objection is ticking. It started from the date of the planning board meeting when this was memorialized a couple of weeks ago. The objection must be filed before this time period expires. The parents and residents of Atlantic Highlands expect that you will obtain necessary documents to keep yourselves informed and even work with the NJDEP, the borough, the planning board, the owner, etc., in order to ensure that the plan that moves forward is one that addresses the needs of the students and the parents at the school. Finally, the AHES administration and board should do as you did in 2009. Hold separate meetings and publish separate public updates, as well as advising parents and the rest of the community of progress on the situation. Parents and concerned residents want to solve this problem. We want to keep Atlantic Highlands a wonderful place to live and raise our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just would like to provide, just on that traffic study, the parking study, the half day that you mentioned, it was a half day where we had parent conferences, so every teacher in this building was still here. The only ones that were dismissed were the students. Our teachers were here meeting with parents, so it was a full day for all of the teachers. So just so you're aware of that.
Can I comment on that? Staff was not here. The staff left. and staff make up a large portion of the parking as well.
The teachers were all here. The only
The
ones who had
staff.
left the building were the aides, which are about eight staff members would have left. The secretaries were here, the custodians were here, the teachers were here, the administration was here.
That's still 8 parking spots. That's a lot.
But then we had parents here for conferences. So those parking spots were definitely then taken by parents being here for conferences. So I just wanted your clarification on that half day. It was a full day for staff.
I believe the observations were made in the afternoon. So if school let out at noon.
The students were let out at 1, and the teachers were here through the rest of that afternoon.
Okay.
I'd like to make comment on the integrity of the information that's been provided not only to the planning board and produced and paid for by the developer. Everybody should realize that it's posited for the goal of developing the property, okay? The developer actually pays and the engineer follows guidelines, but they know what to do. I've done environmental social impact assessments before. Every project has an environmental social impact, and you posit things to get the result you're looking for, and you balance those items. So the parking study is posited for the goal of getting the waiver, because when you put more parking spots in your property, your value per square foot is going to go down. You're going to make less money. In terms of the integrity of the data, that's what I'm looking for. And I have probably more than anybody has, and there's gaps. I spoke about the custody of the information and the quality of the data that went into the studies and the gaps. Everybody's sort of relying on the next guy that everybody's smart and looking at it. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is sort of monitoring this. They're not. They're not. I spoke with them. They'll get on the phone with us. The environmental remediator is not even pointing out who the prior environmental engineers are. When I spoke with her, she wouldn't tell me who they were, okay? So that tells me a lot. There's a confluence of environmental issues in this neighborhood with the TCE and with the gas station. The stuff is seeping all over the place, and you don't know. It's a roulette of what's going to happen. We talked about the budget to do this. Let me tell you how you get the budget to do this. This is a multi-million-dollar project. When the objection is filed and the request for information is filed, that developer will go ahead and start delivering that information and working with us and paying for it to get it done right. That's how you get the budget. It doesn't need to come out of your reserve. That's leverage, and that's sitting at the table with him. You know, you guys sat at the table with him. Parents didn't know. There's no record of those specific conversations. There's no minutes. That was the past. Let's go ahead and come up with action plan now to make this work the right way. Learn from the challenges and the mistakes, but let's do it the right way, and let's be a role model for the kids, and let's get the kids involved. Let's get the teachers involved. That's progress. That's how we do things. We're not at the mercy of the developer. We control the way things go forward, all right? So I apologize if this conversation makes people feel uncomfortable, gets them defensive. That's what happens sometimes, but that doesn't mean we don't support the board and support the individual commitment that you make, you know, every month, all right? I want you to know that. And things don't need to be done in secrecy. I make mistakes all the time. We all do. So let's fix it. And that's what I want. So I'm hoping now that if the board would like copies of the data that's relevant to making a proper decision, I will share that with you, and I will work with you. Number two, I'd like there to be a vote that the Board of Education will notify the parents of this pending project. I'd like there to be a commitment that says we're going to reset, and the mechanism for reset is to file an objection pending X, Y, and Z. We take control of the situation that way. The developer will develop his property. He's just going to have to do it the right way, and the students aren't going to be disadvantaged, and they're not going to be put out. And I'm not going to allow you guys to be in a situation where they carve into the groundwater and you have a problem. All right? So, I would like to, offer that help. I'd like the board to be active in open public dialogue, about what you've heard tonight. And I'd like there to be a vote and a list of action items and possibly a subcommittee that can be very pointed and committed to sort of resolving this issue.
Very much. Any other comments?
I just want to say I also share safety concerns, as have been mentioned, including the digging down deep and not knowing what comes up, but also concerns for the pickup procedure, specifically on East Washington. I want to know if the board is considering any changes at all to the drop-off or pickup procedures on either Lincoln or Washington, based on the fact that in a recent conversation with Adam Hubany, he said that the parking on East Washington school site is in fact 24/7. And he also told me that Carton is hiring at least 35 workers in multiple shifts, which pretty much probably, in my estimation, guarantees that those spots will already be taken, not really available to teachers. And even if available to teachers, are you guys considering, this is just from what I've observed, that parents park there to pick up their young children, and a lot of these parents also have infants in the car, so they try to park and be near the kids, and they don't want the kids to walk alone, so they have to get out of the car. So what are you guys thinking in terms of pickup and drop-off procedures all around the school?
To speak about Carton, the information that I have from the borough is they have around 8 employees, possibly doubling that by the end of this year, and they have employee parking, the parking lot that's next to Carton can absorb those spots, those employees. The remainder of their employees that are being hired are sales and aren't really here in their building, so those spots will not be taken as far as we know. We will monitor, we'll look at it. We have discussed possibilities of what we can do, what we can change, what we can modify, but there's nothing we need to do right now. Yes, we are having those conversations. Might we have to move dismissal or pickup? Absolutely, we might. And at that point, we'll discuss it. We'll make the best decision with the administration, with the teachers, with the staff, and communicate that to the parents. But, right now we just have to monitor it. The spots were hopefully opened up for the teachers to use.
The teachers would still be there when the parents would be there.
They would, and there are other spots. I mean, it's, many of us are fortunate to live close by that we can walk and pick up our kids. Different things that we've spoken about that I've attended at New Jersey school boards and national conventions were safe routes to school and walking pools, similar to a carpool, but you walk from location to location. There's a lot of things that we're talking about that we're looking at. So we are having those discussions, and we have those at the committee level, and we have them at our board meetings.
Can I say something? Hi, Leslie Klein, 26th 8th Avenue. I went to the last planning board meeting because Mrs. N had tried to rally everybody together to go and discuss the parking, and through hearing about all of this, I worked in a building in 2002 in Princeton that was built on soil that was contaminated. And the DEP came in and they said everything was clean and fine, and they built, and I was a social worker, it was a group home, and within a year and a half, more than half of the staff had cancer. And we were in our 20s. This can happen, it does happen. Like, we need to do something just to be on top of it. I know all of you, we all care, nobody wants to get sick. I just think after hearing all of this, I'm like, oh God, because it was traumatic for all of us. So I'm also concerned, and this might seem a little far-fetched, but in the day and age of school shootings, that building is going to have a rooftop deck that is the same height as the school. So parents can't even get in the building, but all of the residents from there can be on top of it. It just feels very sniperish. So that's a little bit of a concern too, is the design of the building. But that's all I really have to say.
apologies. I wanted to ask for those times when you did speak with the developer at 158. I haven't been able to find on the website record of the minutes of what was said. Could you please publish those on the website?
They were done at committee meetings,
Committee meetings or any meetings the board had officially discussing the development at 158 first with the developer or anyone else. So the point is, I think I would like to know what you talked about and what the developer's reaction was.
We discussed it at our I don't want to quote it because it was at our meeting, February, I believe, or March. Erin, do you remember? I know February. So I don't have those minutes in front of me. So
It's not in the minutes on the website, or if it is, I haven't been able to find it.
It was a committee level meeting, which is not an open public meeting.
I see.
Okay, there's only 4 of us
Can
at those
you
meetings.
provide those in such a form that they can be published, redacting certain information that may not be public information?
We provided an update at our board meeting, and that's the update that we provided. What's there on our meeting minutes.
I'd like to respond. I'm not aware of any sensitive data that's shared in that committee meeting about the developer. And in fact, all that she's asking is, to the best of your recollection, please share the nature of the conversation and what was discussed. That's what I think she's asking, and that's what I'm asking. Please share that. And what was the mechanism of follow-on and the command and control of the steps required that the neighbors can work together to see this project work? Was there any affirmation that you agreed with the project? Was there historic recounting of the owners of the property? So if in fact you guys don't want to share that, then it needs to be stated why you're not going to share it and what the mechanism would be to notify the parents of this project and then actually drill down and address the concerns of this project and the impact it would have on the school and the students moving forward. So, if you don't remember, you guys don't remember, but...
I don't have my notes here, but the developer reached out to us to come to our committee meeting. We sat with him. A committee meeting is not an open public meeting. Okay, so it's 4 of us in a room with the administration. He came in, he shared the traffic and parking study with us. We asked him a few questions. I don't recall those questions. I don't have them here in front of me, so I don't want to quote anything that I don't want to remember. We had an open dialogue with him, and that was it. It was maybe a half hour to 45 minutes, to the best of my memory. But that's all. We've had a few phone conversations with him, myself, Dr. Compton, Mrs. Sherlock, regarding the pre-construction, and that sort of thing, being in touch.
I am going to suggest, and maybe collectively we are going to suggest, that needs to be discussed in open forum, and then in retrospect, maybe there was a better way to handle those conversations to inform the public and actually get additional guidance as to how to best handle that. And nothing's preventing the board from sort of resetting and actually moving that forward, because now you're getting feedback, and I don't believe that the plurality of the community needs to be here at 8:30 at night to lend credence to what we are saying and sharing with you. Many people are just too damn busy and too damn tired, all right? And they don't show up, but they have confidence in you and confidence in those that do. And when that confidence is breached, we need to address it, and we're addressing it now. And again, we need to make it stronger and better. We can't say moving forward, the next project we're going to do it better. What we need to say collectively is, this project we're going to do better, and the communication on this project needs to be handled differently. And we recognize what you're saying, and we don't want to be discounted. And all the open items that we have raised really need to be addressed right now. There's no benefit in pushing it forward to the next board meeting. We can address every one of those open items and questions right now. And because of the time-sensitive nature and the consequences of this project, they need to be addressed now.
And we will take everything that has been brought up here. Notes have been taken. We have to go back and discuss it. I'm not ready to respond to things. We will go back and we discuss it as a board with the administration, with our
guidance, with their attorney.
Okay, so
But
that's the process.
That's what the open forum is right now. That's what we're supposed to do as a collective group and as a board of education, is you're supposed to discuss those items now to the best of your ability. And you have to engage, you should be engaging now, not in a closed executive session. It should be discussed right now.
I respectfully disagree. We'll take everything, all these considered things that have been brought up tonight, we will discuss it.
Your window for addressing our concerns and your leverage to address them is becoming, the window is getting closed. All right? My question was, what about the air quality downstairs and the monitoring of the system? I told you that was my #1 priority for being here. And I haven't gotten an answer yet. And the answer could be, hell, I don't know, and I'm not equipped right now for that to answer that. I would have expected that work would have been specifically done to answer that question because I asked it 10 days ago. All right? These other items, if you allow this thing to move forward without, again, a plan, you're subjecting yourself and us to imprudent decisions of the planning board and the borough council. And we don't need to be subjected. Damn it, we need to take a stand. You need to take a stand, and you need to go ahead and say, yes, I'm going to do something, or no, I'm not. I'm either for the developer, or I'm listening to the parents, and I care about the kids. Right? That's really about, I care about the school, and you have to take a stand. It's not being neutral. We have to take a stand. That's why we elected you to engage and take a stand and take a position. And think quickly and act quickly.
This is something we're going to be addressing directly with our attorney. We've taken very extensive notes of everything you've said. In regards to the coral samples, looking at the soil, we want to get advice from.
But how about just today? When was the last time the air has been monitored downstairs and the system's been checked, and we know that the fans are working and there's no water seeping through the walls, which is indicative that the system doesn't work anymore? That's what we need to find out. And that can be found out tomorrow. And we can know if you replace the fans, okay? Don't trust that this thing lasts forever, because it doesn't. The system needs to be maintained. And when, ironically, I show up and there's a budget meeting, and I see the sensitivities of the money, and I understand your role and how you need to fight for the resources. So right there, it's an indicator to me that it's a tight budget, and sometimes things have to be put off. And maybe everybody forgot that that was an important thing to keep running and keep maintaining. So let's address it. That was our priority, the kids today. The other thing, it can't be slow walked. It can't be slow walked like the guy slow walked you in 2002 to 2009. It's got to be addressed now. It's an urgent matter to address. It's going to change the complexion of this neighborhood, the school, and impact the kids. Kids are going to, if you allow this to go, they're going to run roughshod over you, and they're going to do what they want when they want to do it. And my daughter and the other little kids are going to be disadvantaged by this. And they're going to deal with the banging. They're going to be dealing with the pilings. We set the terms. And then you're also running the risk of opening up an environmental can of worms, because we don't know, and they haven't provided the data that gives anybody the confidence that's going on. The last thing I'm going to say is, if you read the CME report that was done for the planning, okay? This other request, everybody's saying New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is going to sort of give the thumbs up. No, in fact, in this report, what it says is that the developer is looking for a waiver to have to get CAFRA or NJDEP, CAFRA. And they're looking for waivers on the flood. That's what it says. What? No, but that is, everybody's pointing to the resolution that says New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection needs to go ahead and sign off on it. They're wordsmithing. They're saying one element needs to be approved. They're not saying the remediation plan, and they're not saying, and you know it too, that...
No, I take exception.
Okay, so specify.
I have not read the resolution.
Okay.
You read the resolution?
I sure did. I read it twice.
You to say that I understand or know that is incorrect.
That
you understand
I
that?
personally?
You said I know that.
No. If in fact you don't, you came ill-prepared for this meeting. And you intimated as an attorney and as an environmental attorney.
Sir, I said directly that at the end of the meeting minutes, two things Mr. Stives said. Okay. Do you have the meeting minutes?
I was at the meeting till 12.
Do you have the meeting minutes? I'm asking, did you
like right now?
Because I have them.
Why don't you read from the meeting minutes from?
And they are also to confirm with NJDEP that the level is dissipated.
No, just because he writes it in a resolution doesn't mean in the report. In the report, it already says that. In the report, it already says that. But that report is posited for the developer to say everything's good. There is a gap between when this property was initially remediated and Brinkerhofer got involved. It's posited. It speaks in vagueness intentionally for the purpose of getting approval. The planning board itself was deficient in looking at all the information. So to base your decision and your argument on a flawed process and saying that's rationalization for you not doing more due diligence is incorrect. It begins right now and ends with the Board of Education and its response to the developer.
It begins and ends with every citizen that has an interest in this property. Every person out there, if they have concern with the planning board, if they have an objection about the planning board, if they're concerned at all about the planning board process, has the right as an individual to make their objections and to bring a prerogative writ action. As to your statements before about the developer will pay for that, they'll get you that discovery.
Absolutely.
If you understand prerogative writ actions at all, there is no new discovery. It is done on the record below.
The record of below needs to be substantiated to the impacted people in this community. You just don't trust because the integrity of the property owner is questionable based on his actions.
The opportunity to be heard on that
Okay.
is not to debate it after the fact.
No. That's
the
what.
opportunity to be heard is before the planning board.
Negative. You had a response. You had a response to the Board of Education.
The prerogative writ action is based upon that record that's created below.
Negative.
You don't have a retrial.
The Board of Education. The Board of Education was notified of this plan to develop the property.
So
they took it upon themselves not to notify the impacted parties in this school, me and my daughter and the teachers. We weren't notified. This thing was an attempt to slam dunk from the very beginning. That's the reality. And you need to acknowledge as the board that should have notified us. Now you need to notify the parents. You can't say they slam dunked it. Nobody even knew about it. And then after the fact, we find out about the toxicity in the school. You have to look at the scope of everything. So you hit the reset and you say, let's get this done the right way. Again, I requested all the environmental records attached to this project that the planning board had or saw, and only thing they have, and they confirmed it. I'll show you the letter I got. The only thing they have is the Brinkerhofer report. That report is inadequate. It's inadequate to go ahead and not defend the health and the well-being of the students and the integrity of this facility. It needs to be addressed. And we're here having that conversation, and we're being rebuffed. We're being rebuffed, and we're being slow-walked and sort of stonewalled. And I'm saying you have to engage, and you have to realize that now is your time to engage, or you will always be known as the Board of Education that didn't actively and be proactive about, defending the kids on this project. That's the reality, and we have to get it done now. Not in 60 days, not in 45 days. It needs to be discussed now in open public forum. And there's creativity on this board to come up with a solution that meets your responsibility as a board member, but meets the responsibility to the public, the students, the teachers, and the parents. I think, that's within your capability of doing that. And I'm not hearing that you are going to take that decisive action at all. And you need to take the decisive action right now. Or not.
Any other further comment in the public?
Yes, Tucker Snedeker, 57 Avenue C. We've got 13 people up here, and only a lawyer and 2 of you have spoken the entire night, with, I guess, some nice comments from Mrs. Long. I am shocked. We've got a whole Board of Education here. I mean, can anybody else hear comments, or are they not allowed to?
My counsel to them would be to reserve, to reset, to go have an executive session meeting, get fair comments from board members, and determine whether or not they want to come out and make a plan this evening. That would be my counsel if asked.
Okay.
I didn't ask for counsel. I asked for the board members.
Thank you.
I'm entitled to make a comment about the comment of an executive meeting. This matter does not warrant a closed session executive meeting at all.
Talking about entering into litigation, the Board of Education needs to know and have counsel.
No, it can have counsel in an open setting. Now.
No.
Absolutely against my counsel. Executive committee means that the minutes are not made public and the public is not invited. When I look at the guidelines associated with that, nothing that we're talking about right now with respect to this matter needs to be held private and out of view of the public at all. It has nothing to do with negotiating of a contract. It has nothing to do with
entering into litigation.
No. Okay. Sans the litigation, have a conversation about the response and what it should be. Sans the litigation. If you want to go into litigative strategy and tactics, then I'll grant you that slightly.
I suggest just to get counsel from me, you can go into executive session.
Well, I want them to make a decision.
I know what you want.
Talking amongst themselves. And when you do engage in litigation, maybe it's an environmental attorney, maybe it's a real estate attorney. There's different strategies and tactics, but the capability and the intelligence of the board members to discuss this among themselves without going into legal, planning should be happening here. Please speak up. You have to, because you'll lose the legal edge and option to go ahead and put this developer in front of you to get this thing done the right way.
Does it require an executive session to discuss and make a decision on whether you would be able to notify parents of what's been, what you know, and the situation here, parents at the school? Is that something that requires an executive session? If not, then is it possible to discuss that now and make a decision so that the people here could know what to expect?
I think we would have to go into executive session to discuss the topic.
Counsel from their attorney.
I'll point that there's precedents already established by the superintendent and the president of the Board of Education with respect to its response in testing water in this school and also at Henry Hudson. okay? So there has already been precedent and a decision internally to let people know when the kids are at risk in drinking out of a water fountain and lead remediation in the school. So you can do the same thing right now without counsel, not in a closed session, notifying the parents of the impact of this, the history, and what it means to the school. And you will get the support of many, many parents, because this will be, for some of them, some of the first time they heard about it. So I believe you sent out that letter in July. I'll tell you again that with respect to this school, the water tested out okay, and it took more deep dive to find that, but up at Henry Hudson, for the life of me, I cannot even believe that a situation like that can exist, and it would immediately be funded and resolved. And if I plan on sending my daughter to Henry Hudson, we got to ramp things up here, people. You know, that experience has got to be as strong as this school at every level.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you everyone for sharing your comments. I'm going to close the public comment session. We're moving on to our agenda, the superintendent consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Mahoney?
Second? Any discussion? Roll call?
Barnes?
Yes.
Batson?
Yes.
Dorsey? Yes. Doherty?
Yes.
Edstrom?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to affirm the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report for February 2018 presented at the March 20 meeting? Motion? Second? Any discussion? Roll call?
Barnes?
Yes.
Spencer?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Edstrom?
Yes.
Lombardi? Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
And can I have a motion to accept the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report for March of 18? Motion?
Mahoney?
Second?
Surgery.
Discussion? Roll call?
Barnes?
Yes.
Spencer?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Edstrom?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
And may I have a motion to approve the business administrator's consent agenda? Motion?
Doherty?
Second? Any discussion?
I'm sorry, who's second?
Any discussion? Roll call. Roll call.
Barnes?
Yes.
Spencer?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Edstrom?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Compton, over to you.
I would just like to address this evening, we're extremely proud of the National Honor Society with the induction of the new students into the National Honor Society. This is the third year, and you can see from our banner back when it started 3 years ago. We're very proud of the stories, very proud of the kids, and it truly was a great induction ceremony. I also want to say today, too, that I got to see part of a second grade performance that Welcome to the Jungle that was done by the 2 second grade teachers and students, and they did a phenomenal job. The singing for second graders was just fabulous. The other thing I just want to add again, that the moving up ceremony that's on the agenda tonight will be that Friday night on May 22nd. And we want to make sure everybody's here at 6:30. Yes, sorry. June 22nd. I'm a month ahead of myself. So June 22nd for the slideshow, which will be at 6:30, and then the ceremony will start at 7. Henry Hudson's graduation will be that Tuesday on the 26th, which is the last day for students. We'll be talking about more upcoming close of the year events.
Thank you. And our board meeting will be
Right. Because of the middle school orientation, we're going to ask that it's moved from May 15th to May the 22nd on that following Tuesday. Because Henry Hudson is doing a new middle school orientation, and we have several parents in regards with the
day, so it's easier to just move the board meeting day to the 27th.
Thank you. Ms. Swan? Just a couple of quick things to follow up. We have, as you mentioned earlier, the Skip the Straw, the Environmental Commission, really very pleased with our students, with the presentation that they had, as well as their gathering in and really joining in on the aspects of this. In addition to the second grade play that Dr. Compton just mentioned, our fourth graders will also be having their science fair on Friday, and we will be having a lot of students both coming as well as attending outside Bring Your Child to Work Day on Thursday, so it is an insanely busy week here at Atlantic Highlands for a lot of things. I also want to compliment Mrs. Tallarico and the fifth graders. Last week they did a Meet the Olympian Day, as well as Mrs. Mills, her students participated, and they researched different Olympians. They came in, they held an opening ceremony. They threw paper airplanes into their cauldron, all fire colors, oranges and reds and yellows, to light the Olympic torch. And then parents were invited to come in and observe, as well as other classes. So that was a really neat activity that we had going on as well. The week will round out with the PTO fundraiser. That will be the cornhole event of the year. I believe that all the brackets are filled. We have lots of people practicing. It should be a really good time had by all, so we really do appreciate that. I want to thank the board for supporting the field day lunch this coming year. I was also just informed that we will be receiving the benefits of this year's PBA ball, not as a direct donation. Originally, the PBA ball was going towards the Atlantic Highlands First Aid Squad, and with a number of things going on, the police as well as the First Aid Squad were talking, and what they would like to do is make a donation to every single classroom in the building of a safety kit, basically first aid as well as emergency supplies, things of that sort. And we are talking with Mr. Hubany, who is in charge of the First Aid Squad. He will be donating services to do some first aid trainings with our staff in the fall. So it was really a very nice donation that's going to be made. Their PBA Bowl will be held on the Friday that is our field day, leading into Memorial Day weekend. So that is something that we were just informed of, and we were very pleased to see that connection going there. As a follow-up on one of the committee meetings, there was mention of the benches. We had some parents who had reached out wanting to build benches and donate them outside on the playground area. I followed up with that parent. They are going to look into plans and then come back and present them to us that can then come back to the committee meeting. We talked about really the longevity of them, making sure of the construction for the safety, for how they would be secured, all of those aspects. I wanted them to do some research into that and then get back to us so that we could take a look at whether it is feasible within the school that way. And the final thing I just want to clarify, you will see later on the approval of, if we didn't already, maybe we did already, the parents attending Camp Bernie this year. I just wanted to kind of really thank the board, first of all, for the support of it, and just noticing that what we did this year, we had such an abundance of moms wanting to go. We're actually approving 22 different parents to attend the trip, but they come together to equal the same number of parents, 15, that we have approved in the past. The parents really were very, very flexible. The moms, we had so many that they are splitting the trip. So one will come on one night, one will come on another, and this way we were able to incorporate all of the parents that wanted to be a part of this fabulous trip with our sixth graders to be able to join us.
Well, you can do it the way I did it.
Or, yeah, I did actually offer that to one mom, but nobody else has chosen to do the glamping at the hotel down the road. So, but yeah, absolutely. Nope, we have quite a few parents who really were interested, and they will brave the hopefully nice weather with us.
Good. Thank you. Mrs. Sherlock, over to you, and thank you for everything with the budget.
I was just gonna thank you guys. Thank you for meeting again on the budget and, wanting me to change it for those concerns, and, thank you for approving. Put it all to the back. Monday.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other public comment? All right, moving on to personnel items. I need a motion to approve the personnel items as listed on the agenda. Motion? Second? Any conversation?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Etcher. Roll call?
Barnes? Yes. Dancer?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
Dougherty?
Yes.
Edstrom?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Any other comments from Board of Education members? Sure.
So I just wanted to address the room. Just saying that I want to acknowledge that we hear comments, and once again, there was a wave of interest about a year ago from parents, which is great, on another issue. I encourage you to come to board meetings regularly. And I acknowledge from a parent's perspective that it's a very awkward position to be out there, because it seems like people aren't listening, but please do know that we are listening, we're taking notes, we take your ideas very seriously, we just cannot comment at this time. So, but we do really hear you.
We do have one additional motion on our agenda this evening. I need a motion to approve, does everyone have this separate piece of paper? The motion to approve the following items upon the recommendation of the superintendent. Motion?
Mahoney?
Barnes, second. Mahoney? Any discussion?
If I could just, to clarify, this is to fill a directly identified recent need in one of our preschool classrooms.
For a paraprofessional.
This is for a short hourly paraprofessional and will only be till the end of this school year. So it is not something that we are expecting
For next year.
for next year. It is just to fill a need that I have based upon a part-time.
Okay.
This is a relative of one of our teachers, but will not be working in that teacher's classroom. Would be working in a different location, so would not be supervised by the relative. There is nothing along those lines. We have been provided guidance along that regarding nepotism and those types of things. And as you'll notice, it is not to exceed 12 hours per week. So it is not something where we would be having somebody here for 5 hours a day. It is a short term to fit a need that just came to our attention for a preschool until the end of the year.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just to clarify too for the public that's out there, it's just a paraprofessional.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Barnes?
Yes.
Dancer?
Yes.
Dorsey?
Yes.
Dougherty?
Yes.
Edstrom?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the following resolution pursuant to NJSA 10-412B. The public is hereby excluded so that the board can meet in executive session to discuss the following items. No action will be taken. Negotiations with AHEA and personnel, support staff, healthcare. And further discussion on public comment session. Though the board cannot guarantee it, the estimated time in executive session is an hour. Be it further resolved that said discussion will be disclosed to the public when reasons for discussing and acting upon it in closed session no longer exist. Motion? Second?
Center.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Barnes? Yes. Dancer?
Yes.
Dorsey? Yes. Dougherty? Yes. Edstrom?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Is anyone staying from the association? No. No, okay. Have a good night.
Procedurally, do you come back to public session after the executive?
We adjourn the meeting.
You adjourn after that? You adjourn it? There's no...
Thank you.
If you want, I have 2000.